There you go. This doesn't seem to be.
A lot of that going around.
Phone doesn't seem to be. This thing is not functioning. Try a different outlet. No?
No, nothing changed in here.
Troy.
Frank.
I'm not completely familiar with these spiders.
Usually when it's plugged in, it does that. I guess we could use a cell phone. Not too many different fittings.
Yeah. It's as if it's not getting power itself. Yeah.
Did a check fall out of this?
I don't have one. You just ask me to sign it. I'll give it to you. I'll bring one back. You're demanding. Cash, what cash? Cash, okay. This is cold.
Can do that.
Okay, so. Put that on the camera.
Or a check is fine.
Alright.
Well, maybe we'll just try a cell phone.
Yeah. Probably wouldn't work.
All right.
Because that car's an office going on in the tower.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah. These aren't cheap. I'm surprised that it stopped working.
Welcome to Webex. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound. If you are the meeting host, enter your PIN followed by a pound. If you are...
Okay, good evening, and with technical difficulties, we'll start the meeting. Just everything working well with the camera and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, how do you start this?
Hello.
Oh, it's a bunch of crickets.
All participants have been muted.
So it is recording, it's hearing us, but the last tape wasn't.
It's what?
The last tape wasn't taken off, so it's insufficient.
Well, it should be able to store a whole bunch of stuff, so hopefully.
It's not recorded. It's got insufficient disk space.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting of August 3rd to order, and the first item will be to review the minutes of July 20th, which were the regular minutes. And if we could have a motion to consider those minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on it.
Yes, please. For the July 20th, 2020 special meeting.
Well, this is a regular one.
Okay, the regular one? Thought I was going to take the easy one first. Okay. On page 1, under the Haynes Park bathroom building, section 4B4, second to last phrase, I'd like to add that the Board of Selectmen award the project to the low bidder. And then in the next paragraph, Selectmen discussed the committee's 2 motions, including the 5%. I'd like to add contingency placed over all the bathroom work, both completed and pending. And I have this typed out. On page 2, under Soundview Sidewalks design work, Selectman Nosel gave a review of the project today and reported that the project manual bid documents are ready for legal review. The community outreach development wasn't part of that thought. And then in the next sentence, I suggest we just say, take out preparing and just say up to 3 possible easements will require legal assistance, including one for signage near the easy mark. And then lastly, on page 3, under public comment, I'd like added that
On page 3, you say?
yes, under public comment,
Okay.
Steve Junkheit, I'd like to add that he was joined by Minister Laura Fitzpatrick Nager. And that's all I have.
All right.
You can get this stuff.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do you have any?
All set.
All right, so we could entertain the amendments and approve the minutes as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, fine, thank you. I wonder if that box is on.
What box? I turned it on.
No, this doesn't seem to be going through the hall that much. No speakers. Okay. The next will be to consider the minutes of, actually it's a public hearing, but the special meeting we had for the Neighborhood Assistance Act program. May we have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Okay. Any?
Yes, a discussion. Chris wasn't there, so it has him present. So if we could just
Oh, we delete Chris, yeah.
delete that, that'd be great. You're right, am I not hearing this?
All right. We will remove Chris from being present. So may we'll then vote on the minutes as amended. All in favor?
Abstaining since I wasn't there.
Aye. Okay, good. All right, I see we have a number of visitors, so we want to make their... Pardon?
You want to make a motion to move some of them up?
Yeah, I'm just going to get to that. So we have, I believe we have the MOU between the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services, which is 5A. We have, do we have anybody from Sustainable here today?
We do. Maureen Plumley.
Somebody going to speak on that?
I was going to, but if there are any questions for Maureen, she'll be here. Unless you'd like to speak, Maureen.
I'm not sure what you're saying. I can't hear you.
Okay, well, we can leave it in the regular lineup then if there's not somebody to make a statement.
I think I was planning on doing that, the statement that was sent to you.
Should we just keep it in the normal order?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so it would be 5A. Then Aiden for the Eagle Scout project, that would be 5C. And then Frank Papalardo wishes to speak on, this would be other business, but save the sound cleanup. And that would be number 7. And Troy's, and you guys are here together. Are you? Oh, great. Okay, great. So may we have a motion to move up 5A, 5C, and 7 to follow the minutes here, and then we'll get to the rest of the agenda and conserve these people's time.
5B. Might as well move 5B though, too.
5B is the sustainable. We're not
Right,
going to...
Mary Jo's going to talk about it.
Yeah, but she can talk about it.
Yeah, but the guests, the guest is here.
Do you want to talk about it? I thought you said it in the normal order.
I'm happy doing whatever makes sense.
Well,
Let's just
Maureen's here, so why don't we just
Then
keep
she
it all
could,
together?
then she could,
Yeah,
she could.
All right, then 5B, so A, B, C, and 7.
okay. I'll second it.
All right. I'll move it, you'll second it. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the first thing will be the MOU between the Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection and the town concerning the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Network. So this is, who wishes to comment on this of you guys? Yeah, just drag your chair up, and whoever's going to speak will give you the microphone.
All right.
And you can just brief us on this. And
Sure.
We've got a copy here of the. But go ahead.
Sure.
Fill us in.
Troy Clark. I am the Deputy Emergency Management Director in town, but I'm also a member of the fire department and the ambulance, and very involved with radio communications in town. There's an opportunity that came to all municipalities in the town, or in the state, and I thought this was something we really ought to jump on board with to at least get access to. The MOU doesn't bind us to commit to purchasing anything, but should an agency in town want to get onto this system, this MOU just allows the access to it. What the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Network is, it's the statewide public safety trunked radio system that the Connecticut State Police on, as well as many other telecommunications agencies inside the state. This would allow for interoperability and increased coverage and enhancement of our current radio communications in town. Again, the MOU is free to the town to access onto the system. The only part that the town and or the agencies in the town are responsible for is the purchase of any radio communications equipment, should they choose to go onto the system. And so that's, I'm available for questions.
Can you maybe just explain what the difference is between what we have now and by joining this eventually?
So,
how much better coverage we'll get?
with any kind of radio systems designed and built, it's always built for basically a 7 to 10 year term. And at that time, the technology changes. And so we've been investing money into our current UHF infrastructure and building it out to be a really great system, which is a local system in town. It does not work very well when you leave town to go to another town, or like an ambulance transporting to New Haven or to Middletown. The communications, once they leave town, falls off rather quickly. With this system being a statewide system, they would be able to remain in contact all the way to the hospital. For an example, with the fire department, our tankers in town often get requested mutual aid to towns that could be quite a distance away. And we don't typically have great communications when we go far out east. We recently had a call in Ledyard where once the tankers got into Ledyard, they didn't have any communications with anyone. Having a portable radio on the system would have allowed them to be able to talk back to our dispatch, which is Valley Shore. So, looking at a 7 to 10 year factor of our current system in town, the option is to continue to invest money into our current UHF system, or to purchase equipment to go onto this system, which this system is built and maintained by the state of Connecticut, and we are only responsible for subscriber units, which is portable radios, mobile radios, etc.
And I guess 3C indicates that if we wish to acquire radios that would work the system, the town would fund the cost of buying them.
Sure.
And equipment and so forth. So if we join it, can we use it at this point, or do we have to have these special radios first?
If we join it, we can't use it today because we don't have any radios to use on it. But I know that the ambulance is very interested, because when they do go to hospitals in New Haven, Hartford, Middlesex, they lose that. So they would be interested in purchasing radios. And, just the interoperability with other towns. There's many towns around us that are hopping on board with the state system that would be able to, in the event that we had a fire or something in town and we had to call for help, bringing additional towns in, they could talk with us using that system.
And Dave Roberge, our emergency management director, indicated that Millstone funds might assist us in acquiring these radios.
Yes.
On a gradual basis, and we've used that method with what we have now, gradually acquiring them.
Yes.
So we wouldn't have to switch everything over all at once. We can,
We don't matter.
15, 20 a year for a couple of years.
The initial idea that I have is to purchase one to put at our tower, which would tie this system and our current system together. So it could be a gradual over time. So it would be seamless, as if one person with one radio on one system and one person with a radio on our current system could talk to each other seamlessly.
Would we have to spend money on any of the towers to upgrade that equipment?
With our current infrastructure that we have now, yes. Utilizing this system, the state's responsible for maintaining the towers and the coverage.
Okay. And I gather also that I guess that goes with the body cams, the storage of the information, but would there be any role that the state would help us store anything? Does that need to be considered?
I don't know that portion of it. The resident trooper would have probably more information on that.
Okay, all right.
This is solely just voice communications that the specific MOU covers.
Would we be able to get equipment to help down at Soundview with communication also?
Yes, there is infrastructure down at the police department that covers down in the Soundview area.
Okay.
Our current infrastructure does cover down in that area. The state's infrastructure also covers down in that area. So it would help, absolutely. I did do some testing with some portables from the state that they loaned me, and coverage throughout the entire town is very good. And, there is with any radio system a dead spot here or there. There is also dead spots here and there with our current system. So I think it's having at least the access to get into the system is a win-win for the town. So,
Rob, am I missing anything?
It's the only other thing is moving in, going away, and having a secondary.
So with our current UHF infrastructure, we've migrated to UHF over several years from low band. Low band, they don't manufacture the equipment anymore. Our dispatch center is moving away from low band, and later this summer, low band will be going away by our dispatch center completely. So low band had been a secondary backup way into our radio system in the event that the primary way failed. So having the state system tied together with our radio system would give that secondary backup rather than not having any backup. So it kind of replaces the low band. It gives us quite a bit of more area of coverage.
In the perfect world, would all personnel have one of these radio sets?
In a perfect world, every police officer, firefighter, EMT, EMR could have one. And in a very large-scale event, the state could push a couple buttons in their console, and everybody could talk with everybody at a large-scale incident.
And what is that number approximately? If you
So the number that I put in the MOU was capped at 150. That doesn't mean that we have to buy 150. It just means that with all of our firemen, EMS, Public Works, that's a number that we would have that we could work within, not to go over without having to draw up a second MOU to increase that number. But as far as the number of units on the state, by now, because the system's been in place for a year, they must be within thousands of subscribers on the system by now, and it's underused at this point. So I think this is a good move to utilize something.
and the cost per unit is about what?
So the subscriber units, portable radio, mobile radio, they're in the area of about $1,800 a unit. So it's not cheap, but it's not that much more than what we're currently buying for our UHF infrastructure.
Do we have to have any other equipment to be in the stations or anything like that, or are they all just go?
We would utilize what they call a control station inside the firehouses, the EOC, to access into the system. But there, like I said, there's no commitment to actually buy anything if there aren't any interested parties. But there's certainly at least, today, a few interested that would like to go on board.
Good. Okay.
All right.
Any other questions? So the question at hand is whether we would execute this document, which would be with the Connecticut State Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection and the town of Old Lyme. And if we had a motion to proceed, I could execute this, and these gentlemen could take it along, and we would ultimately get more official paperwork back, I expect, from the state of Connecticut.
I make the motion we approve that MOU.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to have myself sign the MOU. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Shall I go ahead and sign one of these for you?
Yeah, I gave you a call for 2 copies, so I don't know if you have 2 copies.
Yeah.
2 copies?
It asks for 2 copies and asks to leave the shaded area blank, which is the dated, because it can't be dated before the state's on it.
Well, I have 2 here,
Oh, you do? Okay.
but if you could get one back to me?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll leave the date blank. All right, so if you could give me a shot of that before it goes out, that
All
would
right.
be great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how long the sustainable will go, but maybe in deference to our Eagle Scout, we could have Aiden come on up and bring up a chair and tell us about. There we go, terrific. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. My name is Aiden Russell. I'm a member of Troop 240 in Old Lyme, and I'm currently in the middle of my long and challenging process of achieving my Eagle Scout rank. This is an incredibly prestigious rank that only 3% of Scouts achieve, and I feel like I really need to achieve this rank because it will enable me to get into a good school, which will put me on the right path to having a successful future. The process of completing the rank itself also teaches valuable life lessons such as leadership, stewardship, and giving back to the community. One of the main requirements to achieve this rank is to design and execute a major community service project, and I believe I have found the perfect project, which is the betterment of the park directly under the Baldwin Bridge. I'm not quite sure what it's named. When I first visited this park,
I think it's called Watch Rock.
Yeah, Watch Rock. I was just
Or no, maybe not Watch Rock, but it's, yeah, I know just what you're talking about, yeah.
When I first visited this park, I was surprised it even existed because it's in such a precarious place underneath the bridge. And immediately after that, I noticed a few things wrong with this park. The stone wall that ran parallel to the path leading to the park was incredibly overgrown, and the signs containing fascinating history about the Baldwin Bridge and the Connecticut River were covered in moss and were unreadable. And most aggravating to me is that overgrown trees and bushes are blocking a beautiful view of the Connecticut River. My plan for this park is simple, but I believe it will have a huge impact on this community. Me and volunteers consisting of friends, troop members, and family members will trim the bushes and vines around the wall, making it visible again, clean the plaques and signs so that its information can be read again, and trim the trees and bushes to make the Connecticut River visible for all to see. I could also add a bench or butterfly garden to possibly attract more visitors to the park. My hope for this park is that once someone sees that this little, once obsolete, overlooked eyesore in the shadow of the Baldwin Bridge has become a hidden gem in Old Lyme. In terms of timeline, the earliest I want to complete this project is late fall to early winter, and the latest is late winter to early spring, due to the vegetation being less thick and the weather still being favorable. Funding for this, one of the requirements for this project is for me to invest in organizations and groups who will be willing to provide for this project, whether through direct funding or providing resources. I could look in the LISB and the Lyme Historical Society and see if they will be willing to fund this project, and perhaps the town will be willing to pitch and do some of this funding. This project will be relatively easy to provide materials for. All I need is a couple of hedge clippers, chainsaw, cleaning supplies, and lumber. I reckon that the total cost of these will cost around $1,500. In terms of logistics, I plan to use the visitors parking lot by the dentist office off the highway to park our cars, and then we can use wagons to drag the supplies down the path. It's not a far walk at all. And that concludes my proposal for my Eagle Scout project.
Just as an aside, I think it's called the Scenic Overlook.
Yeah.
And I believe we could speak with the neighbors and have you go up that, I think it's called Bank Lane or something like, whatever the street is, if you were to go Halls Road across 156, that private road that goes up there, you could probably, when you're doing the actual work, take a vehicle up there rather than carry everything up the sidewalk, because you can go up that road and then enter the park from left, the right side going in. And, no, that's great, because that, I remember years ago, we got the funding for that, and there's a lovely granite map
On the on the ground.
and so forth. So it's too bad it's gotten out of bad repair. So it's outstanding. Yeah, good. Do you need anything from us specifically, like a letter, or what would you?
I have something you can sign. It's just for the Boy Scouts of America. They need to see a signature
Okay.
to prove that I prevented it.
Yeah.
So I can actually go grab it.
Okay. Good.
He will need a signature from you because that's going to be part of the package for the.
Okay, we can connect with that later. Yeah. Do they talk about any kind of insurance while the scouts are up there and other people?
The scouts are already insured.
Yes.
Okay.
Through the charter.
All right.
They're volunteers.
So Boy Scouts could give us something just to be okay, that'd be helpful. We can talk further on that score, but I think we would fully endorse returning that to its former glory. It is stunning. That's between the 1948 bridge abutment and the 1911 bridge abutment.
Yeah.
And when it's shaped up, it's quite a drop. So don't get too close to the edge. It's about a 40-foot drop down to the bottom. But no, it does have a terrific view and so forth. So you'll have some fun. Good. Well, we can when you're ready, we can help put the word out and get some people to help finance your endeavor. Cause,
That'd be great.
That'd be the least we could do.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody?
Thank you, Ethan. Good luck.
Good. Mr. Papalardo, why don't we?
No, we keep on forgetting substantial.
Well, I wanted to put these guys first.
No, here too.
I know.
Okay.
I can wait.
All right, Maureen, do you or you want to lead it off?
Yeah.
Do you come on up because we need the microphone.
So this is an update on the Sustainable Connecticut Old Line team and their activities. And this group has been working really hard since the beginning of the year to complete the initiatives necessary to get the town of Old Line recognized at the bronze level. And as the Selectmen probably recall, this is a statewide initiative. It's voluntary and required that the Board of Selectmen to initiate a resolution when this first began in 2018. And Maureen has been really pushing this along, particularly I want to thank her as well as the Conservation Commission's help. But the team currently consists of Maureen Plumley, Charlotte Lyman, Patsy McCook, Cynthia Willauer, and Cheryl Poirier, who needs to be appointed. For some reason, the Selectmen didn't reappoint in January with the other committee, so some of the people that were initially on the committee are no longer working on the committee.
Well, did they actually, were they set up with terms when they were appointed, or committees don't necessarily have to have terms? So
I don't think so, but at least 3 people are no longer working on the project.
is that because they think their terms have expired?
I don't know.
You know?
I haven't gotten to them yet.
Well, because when I looked at it with Michelle, I said here, no term, because the committee doesn't necessarily have to have a term like a board or a commission where you have, it's an ordinance and they stagger the terms and all that. So if people are working on it, we could just have members without a specific term, and if somebody wanted to move on, they could so state, and then we could replace them. But it might be simpler than
What's the typical term?
well, they're anywhere from, alternates are often 1 year, people can be 2, 3, 5, the Board of Finance is 6 years.
Well, a handful of us started last year. And then the newest person is Cheryl Poirier, who started this year, so we could give her a term. That
Well,
would
she's
the
to be
second.
appointed now, but as I say on this agenda, no term. I think it'd be simpler not to have specific terms,
Okay.
and I don't know that a term serves much purpose for what you're doing if people want to stick with it, and if they choose to move on, they can simply say,
That's fine.
Well, so that was my point. Some of the people that the selectmen last appointed are no longer working on the project. And this is the group that's actually carrying forward the initiative. And the last day for them to actually work on getting things posted or project related was July 31st. So now the write-up is continuing. And as part of the requirements, the committee, the team is required to share their update of the project for the Board of Selectmen. So that is the purpose of this that I'll read, if that's okay with you guys. Okay. To the Old Line Board of Selectmen. The Sustainable Old Line team is proud to share with you some of our recent work as we prepare to submit our application for Old Line to become certified as a Sustainable Connecticut Municipality. The Sustainable Old Line team was created by Town Resolution in 2018 to develop as well as highlight the sustainable actions of our commissions, committees, municipal staff, and community goals in town. Sustainable actions benefit the health and wellness, economic well-being, community building, equity, climate resilience, environmental impact, and cost savings for municipality. Sustainable Connecticut certification is a way to demonstrate that a community is ensuring a thriving, resilient, collaborative, inclusive, and forward-looking environment for residents and businesses alike. As one special innovative action, Sustainable Old Line has focused on safe walking areas of Old Line, especially for older residents and those with special needs. To undertake this, we asked residents to participate in an online survey to better understand their walking and bicycling habits and interests throughout Old Line. In addition, we also asked residents to audit the walkability of Lime Street. We chose the west side of Lime Street for the audit, not only because it is a community hub for connecting with others, but also because it is one of the few safe places to walk with sidewalks. We also sought to understand if walkable routes in town are particularly suitable for older residents and/or who had special needs. We'd like to share with you some of our initial findings in looking at walkability in Old Line, as well as specifically on Lime Street. Please see the attached summary of our initial findings. We look forward to presenting you with our full report in the coming weeks. I have copies for everybody. In short, walkability is important to many Old Line residents, as demonstrated in the initiative to bring sidewalks to the Soundview area and soon to Halls Road. We hope the Board of Selectmen and its commissions and committees will continue to see that sidewalks, as well as walking paths and bicycle lanes, are important to many of our taxpayers. With a physically active population interested in walking for fitness and connection to others, safe walking and bicycling environments will ensure that Old Line continues to be a desirable place to live and work. It is our hope that certification as a Sustainable Connecticut Municipality will open avenues for Old Line to pursue grants that promote further sustainability, including infrastructure that supports walkable and complete streets. We wish to thank those in our town who have participated in our Lime Street audit and the online Old Line Walk and Bike Survey. We're especially grateful to the Town Hall Senior Manager of Administration, Michelle Morin, for her computer smarts and patience. We also thank the Old Line Board of Selectmen for their ongoing support of this initiative. We appreciate the opportunities to support the town of Old Line, and we look forward to updating you with our final results in the coming weeks. Respectfully, the Sustainable Old Line team, current members, Charlotte Holly Lyman, Marie Plumley, Patsy McCook, Cynthia Willauer, Cheryl Poirier, and I was recently asked to represent the Board of Selectmen, and I'm honored.
Okay. Very good.
So the team is making their write-up, and that'll be submitted mid-August. They had the support of the Rivercock with 2 interns that helped them. They were really great to work with. But Maureen just kept us all together. We're finally online. She sets up meetings, she does the minutes, she sets the agendas. And it's been a really, really nice team group of people. They're dedicated and committed, so it's really nice. And this is a very difficult task. There's 9 areas, and under each 9 of these areas, there's different tasks under them that have to be accomplished. And all of this will be written up and submitted and be evaluated. And we're pretty sure we're going to get bronze. And then we go to silver. That's the only other award at this point that I'm aware of.
Silver's the top.
Very few towns, I think, are participating at that level.
So
a lot of people have registered, but not everybody's participated.
So this would be submitted during August, at the end of August?
There's 2 applications a year, and this is the second of the year. So you have a chance, if you didn't make the first round, you can repair or add to what you originally had and submitted in the second round. So this started, I guess, 3 years ago. I was recruited last year, and my focus that I chose was the recycling.
Yeah.
Thus the stickers on all the recycling bins, and had Girl Scouts that were helping. We distributed those, and they participated in the Midsummer Festival with a little hands-on game, I guess, for kids. And then it just seemed like too good a project to let go, so I revived it. But what it is it's a model. It's a suggested model for cities and towns to take on whatever improvements or changes or expansions that they want, and you choose. So of those 9 categories, this walking survey was part of the transportation, equitability and transportation. But of what we could choose, walking and biking is a big part of what this town is. So the survey and also the audit of Lime Street is producing some interesting results. Nothing that that we have to force to happen, but just if you were going to make plans to change things, like the crosswalks over at Rogers Lake to get across over to for the rowers, for example, and beachgoers to get across the street safely.
Yeah.
So things like that will come out of it.
Now, did you speak with the Historical Society about the walking tour that they have of Lime Street? Would that play into it at all?
No, not really. This had to do with safety, functional. If you're in a wheelchair, what do you need? What's missing? If you have any sort of disability or anything that's preventing you from. Well, walking is a good example, because you want people to walk. You want them to have good transportation and not have cars. I mean, parking's an issue no matter where you go. So if you can make it easy, once upon a time, kids would walk from Lime Academy over to Halls Road and take their life in their hands. If you've ever crossed that intersection, it's really tricky. So that would be an example of something that we could look at. But they propose a model, and it's not one thing that you choose to do and it has to be done this way. They give you suggestions. How do you document this, like the survey, and how do you propose to take the data and turn it out into something that's recognizable and real. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of projects that could be done or ideas that people have, but to be able to document it and make a case, whatever that is, they're pretty strict about it. And then these 2 interns, or the timeline on it, the look back period, doesn't count. They're pretty rigid about it.
Yeah, and that's what is tricky. The work has start date and end date, and so. But I think the nice thing is that you have taken the different tasks and reached out to different people doing sustainable things in town. We're able to attract them to the application, and that will be wonderful. Even in a time when we are not really out and about, you guys were successful in pulling all this together, and I really think that's amazing.
A lot of virtual meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, good. So once you submit, how long do they take to come back and say,
I don't know, it's pretty short term because it's been reviewed all along. So each time we're doing things, and right now we've been meeting weekly, virtually weekly.
yeah.
And so by the time that application, and you apply online and everything is documented and by that time you've been approved or not at each stage along the way. So I'm not sure what the answer to that question is, but they don't have to take a lot of time because the hierarchy in this project has been looking at the goals and the accomplishments or making suggestions as we've gone along. So it's not like you have to study somebody's thesis and, mark it up. It's been tweaked, it's been worked on, it's been resubmitted all along.
It'll be this year though, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Because it's the fall.
Yeah, so bronze is the third level, lowest of the accomplishments you can,
So you got bronze and silver, right?
Yeah. So if we get bronze, we'll be pretty darn happy with that.
Yeah.
For example, we worked with Suzanne Thompson, Nip the Knotweed project, and she's really a champion of recruiting volunteers and doing work, and she helped us advertise and get the word out for what she's doing and vice versa. So it's been an interesting way for me anyway, to see how people come together and how you can work together and share information. And I think it's been terrific. It's been a real, from my standpoint, a real success. And it's not a one-time thing. So the idea is you continue, you do something the next time, and choose something that's appropriate for the town, something that people can agree that might be, like right now, walking is quite one of the only ways that families have to entertain themselves. So it's turned out to be a topic.
Sure, absolutely.
So we held our first meeting at the Chocolate Shell and started out from there.
Yeah, get your calories up.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, congratulations. And so if we put these, we'll make these appointments, but will the other people consider themselves as still members, or do we?
Oh, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I encourage them that we'll pick another project and choose whatever we're going to do, work together. They've been a terrific group to work with.
Yeah.
Very independent and, right on time every time.
Well, I think you all deserve a little bit of break once this goes in first.
Yeah,
before
we're
you
going
start
to rest.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
I say that of the three of us who have ever been typing, we have steam coming out of our keyboards.
Yeah. Okay, well that's a great update, and we're proud of you for persevering. And
Thanks for the support, and thanks for having Mary Jo there too.
yeah,
Great to have. And Michelle, this is another one that's responsive, immediately responsive.
good.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, and many of the committees online. Thank you all.
All right, and then we have the Mr. Papalardo, who wants to talk about Save the Sound cleanup.
I think we're far enough away from each other. Thank you very much. I got some packets here for everybody.
Thank you.
I sent out an email earlier today, so all of this is in your email electronically. On July 27th, at our regular meeting, we had a presentation from Laura Zielinski, a resident of Old Colony Beach, and that was at the request of Doug Whalen, president of Old Colony Beach. Laura just recently graduated college, and she would like to organize a coastal cleanup day in conjunction with Save the Sound. And she made a presentation to the Soundview Commission and looked pretty well organized. Save the Sound's been doing this for 35 years and had much success, and there's a package regarding the Save the Sound Cleanup Manual, registration form, and so on and so forth, which really doesn't require anything from the town other than support. What Lauren asked and what Doug had asked was an endorsement from the Soundview Commission and assistance wherever possible for the beach cleanup day. It's anticipated that it would occur beginning of September, one of the first or second or maybe the third Saturday or Sunday in September. They're kind of planning on using an area in Old Colony Beach as the gathering area, so to speak, and get all the volunteers together and patrol the various beaches to clean up debris that goes there. It's purely voluntary, and no town resources are required other than possibly trash disposal.
Would this be from where to where?
Well, right now it looks like it'd be Old Lyme Shores to Hawk's Nest. It may extend farther depending on what the volunteer level is. By having the Soundview Commission endorse it, along with the Save the Sound promotional materials, we could make this a town-wide event, and more people we get, the more beach cleaning we could do. So it's a great program. I know a bunch of years ago, the Soundview Beach Association did a beach cleanup just for Soundview, and I know that other groups in town have done little various cleanups. This is more of an organized event in conjunction with Save the Sound, which is part of the Connecticut Fund for the Environment, or was part of Connecticut Fund for the Environment. It's now just all Save the Sound. It's a 501c3 organization, nonprofit organization. So Lauren and company are looking for our endorsement and assistance where possible. And because we entered this Board of Selectmen, we would like your permission to give that.
Just out of curiosity, Frank, when the beach cleaning function occurs during the summer, they knock off around Labor Day. Does that cleaning effort do a lot of what you would otherwise do, or how much trash is left after? There's a lot of, the beach cleaning effort that occurs now is significant. A tremendous amount of trash gets picked up. Yeah. I'm not sure how much additional trash there is, or what the trash level will be a couple of weekends into September, or areas of the shoreline that presently aren't dealt with a regular beach cleaning program. Yeah. And there are various areas within the shoreline. So, it's to pick up where they left off. Yeah. Hopefully get some community spirit involved in it. I think Lauren seems to have a really good handle on it. She's working with Doug. Doug had asked me if we can kind of work this thing all together, and I think that this looks like a great program. And if it's successful, then we might be able to do this on an annual basis. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there have been efforts on the Connecticut River similar to this, where I think at the University of Hartford would bring down some students, and they work an area. So it's wonderful. Looking forward to having you out there, Tim. Looking forward to having you out there. Yeah. I'll clean up. My bag will travel. That bag will travel. So no, I think it's a great opportunity for some community spirit and just to get things. So it's a one-day type of one-day event. Yeah. Is there a rain date? We'd pick a day, and then obviously if it was inclement weather, we'd have a rain date picked. Okay. It'd be all part of the promotional information that Save the Sound is. They've got packages all ready to go. Basically we just fill in the name type of thing. And as far as
newspapers and other print media and other kind of advertising websites, and they would promote it. And of course, Sound Commission would do our best to promote it, and hopefully the town would too. So.
Good.
I think it's impressive, and Lauren, I think she said was a biology major. So she's really connected. She'll be a great leader, and usually these things have to have somebody that really can motivate people. She was impressive at the meeting. It was really fun to listen to her, and she got everyone's support at the Soundview Commission meeting, so that was great to see.
A lot of enthusiasm, which is good.
So. And looking through the package you provided, it's really great, because this will make the PR part go so well. And kind of, I'm sorry, Marina's in here, it kind of dovetails into some of the sustainable actions, because not only is it a marketable piece and training involved, they like you to collect data, and that's
hopefully we'll get sustainable.
It's all going to be good.
a lot of groups that if we kind of put our heads together, and we can kind of intertwine a lot of these different, and the sustainable people and the sidewalk people and the Save the Sound, and there's a lot of different things we can work together on. So all good things.
Good. Well, we'll do our best to. Do you need a motion from us, do you think?
All I need is for you to say, okay, you guys can endorse this, and we'll move forward on it. Obviously, if anything is going to go out with our name on it, print media-wise, we'll run it past you just to make sure that's okay. Have
probably on the Monday after the event, we could have Public Works pick up bags if they were concentrated in a few places. Make it easy in that way.
Fine.
Yeah.
So do you want to make a motion?
Sure.
Back this, endorse this? Okay.
Yeah, support.
Endorse the Save the Sound plan.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
We will talk further and get this going.
Get the pieces of the puzzle put together here and report back to you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so going now to communication. The DOT is often berated for different things, but I had a wonderful experience with the DOT over the last week. I was informed that on Route 1 Halls Road at 156, the Essex Savings Bank, the left turn arrow was not functional and had probably not been working for some time. So that was issue number one. And then issue number two, I'd noticed that the commuter lot light continued to function all night long, whereas often at 10 o'clock, the big Y and the off-ramp from the Baldwin Bridge turned to flashing at 10 o'clock, but the commuter light did not. And logically, the one at Halls Road and 156 would still stay as a signal, so would the one at the other end of Halls Road. So I spoke to a fellow who talked to me about the signal at Halls Road. At the big Y, he was talking about having a certain feature added to that light. And so I remember I had his information, so I called him, or actually I sent him an email about this, and he sent it over to Anthony Sierri, who's Transportation Engineer 3 at the DOT. And this was a Saturday I did this email, and on Wednesday, I had a reply saying that all these things had been addressed and were being corrected, which is warp speed. So the left turn arrow, I trust is functional. I haven't actually gone down 156 to test it. And apparently the light at the commuter lot is supposed to flash at 10 o'clock. So since everybody seems to make fun of the DOT, I thought it would be appropriate to give him a pat on the back for exemplary service, so.
I love the DOT, for the record.
Okay.
Can I add a couple of communications, if it's possible?
Yes, yes.
I got an email when this agenda came out from Fred Behringer, which I sent.
Oh, I was
you.
going to mention that to you, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe your friend at the DOT could be helpful in this.
Well, he does traffic signals, I don't know, they are compartmentalized, but we'll
Okay,
see.
well, apparently the state plow wrecked the curb at the corner of Davis Road East and Halls Road during the past winter. And he's hoping that somebody in the DOT could kindly come and fix the curb. And this person's business is right there, so
Does he have that in that new, the Reardon building there?
No, he's right on Halls Road.
Right, but, because I went and looked at it,
Uh-huh.
and at Davis Road East, the curbing's intact, but just in front of that new professional building,
That's where he is.
yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I think that's the Reardon building.
Okay.
And there's a strip, maybe 20 feet long,
Yeah.
but it's a long route. So, yeah, I think I know, I mean, I saw where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll endeavor to see who might be the one to put some new curbing down in that spot.
Thank you. And the other communication was something I got today, but it's dated July 31st, and I think we all got it. It's from a homeowner on Old Lyme, and his property is across the street from the recreation parcel of Old Lyme Shores, and he bought it, apparently, according to the letter, about a year ago, and there was deed restrictions on the recreational area, which, you know, I believe was given for strictly recreational use by the owner at the time. Anyway, apparently now this area is being used for Mizzy construction,
No,
or the water project, let's put it that way. The water project, although I haven't
for
seen
Old Lyme
Mizzy.
Shores.
I've seen Mizzy coming out of there for some reason, and with their trucks. And then apparently this is the area that's going to be the, I call it the fragrance center for the sewer project that we learned about last month. So this property owner is surprised that this deed restriction wasn't maintained, and he sent this also to zoning and land use.
Okay, I can add to that. That area is being used by Old Lyme Shores for its water project, not the Soundview water project.
Okay.
So there have been, I think, 2 meetings with engineers and all kinds of people concerning that property. And speaking with land use does not get into enforcing deed restrictions of properties. So the intent is to make that property more tolerable for the resident because of dust and noise and hours of operation and so forth. And I met with the gentleman, and if it were only for the water project, which would end optimally by the end of the year, that would be one thing, but they're very concerned that this might morph into a staging area for the sewers project for Old Lyme Shores. And he was thinking that there have to be other sites that are not in a residential area like this is. So I know land use has been working on this, and I think there are houses in Old Lyme Shores that are on the other side, on the eastern side of this area. And then there are a couple of houses on, within Sound View, actually, because Old Colony doesn't actually go up there. So this is still unresolved. And, but I know land use is well aware of it, and I'm not aware that they've taken any direct action to do a cease and desist, but I guess there is a deed restriction that Old Lyme Shores put on its property. It owns that property. It's supposed to be used for recreation. And so I gather that probably one would have to deal with Old Lyme Shores directly with that, and I don't think that's a town matter. So I hear from land use. So I know they're quite aware of it and trying to figure out how to address it, but if it does go for the sewer project, now there's also that there's supposed to be a facility situated there possibly to be part of the permanent sewer facility,
Right.
which would put some chemicals into the pipeline to make it oh so nice. And so nobody knows too much about that, but it's something like a 12 by 24 building that this facility would be.
Yeah, he has a picture of it in his packet.
Yeah, a rendition anyway.
The proposed rendering, yeah.
So we'll pass this along to our land use administrator and see where they're dealing, because I know they had this room and a bunch of professionals around the table dealing with this. So I'm not sure where they're coming out, but it has been discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so the next item will be appointments, and as we've heard with the presentation about the Sustainable Connecticut Old Lyme Team Committee, we have Cheryl Poirier.
Poirier.
I was trying to do French. Poirier. To be a member without a specific term, and our own Mary Jo Nozel as an ex officio on that committee. And I'm hoping everybody, the other people who may feel that their terms have expired, will be willing to continue as members without a specific term. So I will make a motion to appoint Cheryl as a member and Mary Jo as an ex officio to these positions.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Good. Very good. Okay, turning to old business. We have finally reconciled how Ledge Light and the state do the compilation of the cases for COVID in our town and in the district. And I think we were reporting that it was the cases would be one number and the deaths would be a second number, and you'd add them together. But in fact, there was a big analysis last week, and we understand that the 23 cases which we have include 2 deaths, and we went through one by one and found that there were 2 cases that had been reported to Dave Roberge that were incorrect. And I think they were reported to Dave, and talking with Ledge Light, one looked like it was on Boston Post Road in East Lyme, and the other one, it's a little less clear. But anyway, by pulling those out, we have 23 cases, including the 2 deaths. So we're square with that. Ledge Light just as a point of reference, Ledge Light for the district has 909 cases, and of that, the community cases, I think, constitute. I think the community cases are 67%, and the long-term care facility cases are 33%. I think that's the way it goes. So that the long-term care facilities constitute a heck of a lot of our counts. And of course, when you think of some of these towns, Waterford has it, and Bayview and Atria and so forth. So some of these municipalities have quite a number of persons in these long-term care facilities. So it's just anecdotal. They're still in the count, but it shows that when the problem got going in the long-term care facilities, it really accelerated in the numbers.
Yeah, although they're now talking about concern with the cases increasing in the younger population.
Yeah.
And then the potential of them sharing that with their senior people at home or other people in long-term care facilities. So
I don't think you can get into a long-term care facility now.
I think you're still shut down.
Yeah, I think so. But Connecticut overall is still one of the better situations in America, so that's helpful. Soundview Beaches and Town Hall. There was a meeting this morning with the emergency management folks, and this concerned the tropical storm, and I'm sure there's new information that's come since 10 o'clock this morning, but the thought is that the storm will be passing somewhat to the western side of Connecticut. And the way these work, since they go counterclockwise, the territory on the eastern side gets more wind, less rain, and the communities on the western side get more rain, less wind. So the prognosis is that we would be experiencing 40 to 50 mile an hour winds with gusts above that, and a couple of 3 inches of rain maybe, whereas to the west it would be 3 to 5 inches of rain. So I know we need rain, but we don't need 5 inches at a clip, so that'll be probably better to have less rain. Tides are supposed to run something like 2 to 3 feet above normal. So we opted to put the word out that the beaches will be closed tomorrow, and one could say that maybe the morning weather would be pretty okay, but just to make it easy, if the beaches are closed, then as the waves start mounting, as the storm starts doing its swirl and so forth, we don't have to shoo people off the beach as things are starting to happen. So we'll get the word out to everyone concerned. But there were the ambulance, fire, police, all the likely suspects in this meeting, and between the special need people and public works being at the ready in case the wind brought trees down and so forth, the decision was to not have any centers for people to go to, because that would only exacerbate getting people in close proximity. So probably people in there, I mean, this is not a hurricane, it will be more like a tropical storm, so we're thinking that Dave Roberge was saying that as opposed to trying to have shelters and so forth, and even with, remember during Sandy we even teamed up with East Lyme to have people go over to the schools there and all, but that's not going to happen. No food service, no congregate activity like that. So we're hoping that it'll be a wind event with some rain, and with all the tree trimming Northeast Utilities is done, hopefully we won't have widespread outages and so forth, but we'll see. So there'll be another meeting tomorrow morning to further update what's going on, and things hopefully will be on track as we expect they will.
The other positive thing is this thing is supposed to, the brunt of it is supposed to hit at low tide. So if we get a 2 to 3 foot surge, basically it's going to be, it's not going to go above the high tide line.
Yeah.
So that's pretty positive for the water people,
Sure.
each community.
Yeah. So obviously people should check their yards and get umbrellas down and other things that would be impacted by winds, and it will be fine, I think.
Stock up on toilet paper, paper towels, and fill the bathtubs with water.
Yeah. Get your batteries. Okay, turning to projects, the sidewalks. I know we worked on letters going out to the abutters, so that'll be the next big deal, to get appointments with the abutters over the next, the 12th, the Saturday, the 12th and the 22nd, something like that.
The August 15th, 22nd, and 29th.
29th is out. We're trying to hold back from the 29th, just because people, we're trying to fill the 2 Saturdays and then spill over if we need to. But I think the people that logically, there's something like 13 houses that are in that stretch, and not all of them are in low areas. So hopefully the people with the low areas would be the ones that would have the most concern. If somebody is not happy with the sidewalks, it doesn't matter. They could be any of them. So, so we will have some committee people and some folks from the engineer. Okay, great. All right, and so we hope these individuals that wish to have appointments will make appointments. We want to have appointments, half-hour max, and kind of a one-on-one with the engineer to discuss their particular situation. And if we could do that over a couple of Saturdays, then we will hopefully inform people about the project and may not change their mind, but at least have an opportunity. Then there'd be a follow-up public information at some later time.
Right.
But I think the committee was informed that likely this work will be will not be this calendar year, it'll be into next year. So that'll give us a little more breathing room, and so that these meetings will be important. And then hopefully the Route 156 sidewalk can be a little clearer. I've missed a couple of meetings, but I think the graphics they had for Hartford Avenue were pretty amazing. You could almost see what it would look like. I don't know if they've done that for the other stretch going from the PD down to Cross Lane.
Yeah.
But so that segment is a little behind. So that's our next deal there. Mile Creek Bridge, the decking has been removed from the bridge, so they are working on the abutments to receive the new decking at some point here. So that's moving along as it should. I think the detours are going pretty well. I don't know that we have, I know there have been questions about the Button Ball Bridge, some cement curbing, if you will, protrudes a bit, and people have their tires have been hit. As I looked at it going over, you have to be very close to the bridge, seems to me, to have your tire hit that thing. But apparently people have had entire issue. So before we do anything to that bridge, we would probably need Amtrak to bless it or do it. But I think things are doing okay with the detours, and so we'll keep, as things get a little further along, we'll understand more clearly when that road will open again. But it could impact school if the school goes back in early September, because I think it's probably 2 months to 2.5 months to finish this job, and I think that would probably put it to mid-September. And if school starts sooner than that, then they'll likely have to detour that for a while. The Soundview Sewer. Last meeting, we approved the agreement to enter into the cost-sharing agreement. We've been wrestling with the sewer easement. I call it the street easement as opposed to the Murata easement. We're planning a conference call on Thursday with Michael Carey, our attorney, and representatives from the beaches to iron out some, what I think are relatively minor things. And then once that happens, we should have total agreement on this document. And then I'd like to have Attorney Carey give us a similar email that he's looked at it and he is recommending that the board proceeds with it. So that, depending on the urgency here, I know that the Fuss and O'Neill, who was working on behalf of the 3 beaches and ultimately the town of Old Lyme as well, is eager to have the easement wrapped up so that they can do their putting out their project to bid, various aspects of it, so that work could be scheduled for next year and so on. This document should be ready fairly quickly. However, as we know, the easement for the stretch behind the pavilion is going to take a bit longer. So I'm not sure how that impacts things, but and the cost sharing agreement, it's attached to that agreement deal we did, but the final cost sharing agreement will not admit Old Lyme until a future date that has to be determined. We have certain things we need to do, and we can do some of them, but the 3 beaches, particularly Old Colony, is working the clean water funding, and they said they don't want Old Lyme in it at this point because that will complicate the clean water funding. It'll all get sorted out when we join, money back and forth, but apparently they don't want us to be part of it immediately. The fact that it's an attachment to our agreement makes it, it's not like it's very elusive. The document's part of our agreement. It might adjust slightly at the end, but it's there for the most part. So we have the agreement, the cost sharing agreement, the street easement, and then the Murata easement. In addition to that, we have 2, they're called IMAs, Inter-Municipal Agreements, and we would have one with East Lyme and one with New London. We've met twice with New London on the Inter-Municipal Agreement, and we're discussing the terms of what it would cost the town to come into the Inter-Municipal Agreement with New London. The 3 beaches have already signed a document. They haven't had to pay yet because that happens when you actually start flowing material. But their pricing has been established, and so we're trying to firm up the details of the pricing, and I think we're insisting that it be the same pricing as the three beaches, because that whole thing was structured to include Old Lyme. So we're going through some hoops there. East Lyme, I hear it's a more agreeable situation, and I haven't seen the documents on that, but those inter-municipal agreements need to be firmed up as well. They don't have to happen at the time we sign the agreement, but they need to be solidified as soon as possible. So all these things are percolating along. So we'll be back with this. If there's some urgency, it might have to be a special meeting, but I'm hoping that in 2 weeks we can take care of it at a regular meeting, so we'll find out. Okay. The next item is the Haynes Park bathroom building. As you all know, we approved or recommended at our meeting that that the Board of Finance have a motion to appropriate $42,000 to take care of all the extra things that came along with this building, and they did that, subject to our doing our bit tonight, which would be in the lieu of a town meeting. We would, as we have done before, we would use Executive Order 7JJ and I think 7S to approve this in lieu of an in-person town meeting. So it would ultimately have the Board of Selectmen recommending it to the Board of Finance, which happened. The Board of Finance approves it subject to the Board of Selectmen functioning in lieu of a town meeting under 7JJ and 7S. And once we have a motion, I think I gave you this hand, I think I emailed you guys this write-up.
I didn't print it out though.
Did you see this?
No.
Okay. It's just a recap of the whole process. And essentially tonight, it would be important for us to, under the executive powers through 7JJ and S, to make a motion that we approve the appropriation of the $42,000 in lieu of a town meeting, the in-person town meeting.
And that's up to 42,000.
Yeah, not to exceed.
Yeah, or not to exceed. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? I'll get you a copy of this if you didn't get it.
If you emailed it to me, I probably got it at home.
Okay.
I'll check.
Any other discussion? No. All in favor of that?
All right.
Aye. Okay. Set. Good. Now, I think as we go down to new business, we have moved all of those items up, and we have already talked about them. So I think we can go, hopefully, back to the public comment, which I will endeavor to.
All participants have been unmuted.
Are people still on the phone line?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we have come to the point in the meeting that we will entertain public comment. So anyone wishing to make a public comment, please state your name and make your public comment, please.
Okay, if no one else is there, this is Mary Daly, 9 Portland Avenue. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So in the minutes from July, it says that my question was, who would pay the 70% of the cost sharing agreement? But that really was not my question. I know that the 69.75% is targeted to be paid by the Private Beach Association. My question was, who is going to pay the 29.75 that the town agreed to shoulder? And my question goes back to the actual cost-sharing agreement. Has the WPCA provided the Selectmen a specific list of the properties that were to be included in the cost-sharing agreement? Have they provided you with the total number of accessible properties that are being evaluated in Soundview Area B and the total accessible properties in the private beach communities? Because without these numbers, without these specifics, how could the cost-sharing agreement be legally justified? How could you come to any terms or equations without knowing exactly what is included in that document, what is going to be covered? Without seeing the final list of the properties from the WPCA, because I don't believe they published it or have that, the count that I come up with is 204 properties in Soundview Area B, plus 645 properties in the private beach community. Some questions still remain on some of the commercial and other streets that cross both private and public beach areas. But when you put the count at 204 over 849 total, if it's 24%, if that's not 29.75. The other thing is, the WPCA, the only thing they have said publicly is that they are reserving only 50,000 of the total 310 GDP reserved for Soundview Area D. That's 16%, because 50,000 over 310 equals 16%, not 29.75. So my question was, who's paying the other part? Who's paying the extra 14% or whatever that works out to be? Will the town be paying that? Because certainly you wouldn't expect Soundview to pay that. The other thing is, excuse me for a minute. Gosh, it doesn't make sense to me. And by the way, are you aware that Hawk's Nest is now not included in the cost-sharing agreement? Are you aware that the WPCA has decided to put aside the Hawk's Nest data that they spent $48,000 last year to collect, and to not retain an expert to analyze that $48,000 worth of data, but rather move quickly forward without Hawk's Nest? Are you aware that Hawk's Nest includes several properties that sit right on the beach that do not even have septic systems, because there is no road when you're right on the beach like that? The land is too valuable for that. So especially on the west end, some of those properties, 1.2 million that my friend looked at, has a cesspool and sits right on the beach. At this point, they're not included in this project. But I thought this project was started to actually clean up the pollution in the sound. Are we going to do that? It doesn't seem like we're going to meet that objective. We may end up sewering some households in Area B that have compliant septic systems, but not the ones on the west end right on the shore. Does that make sense to you? Because it certainly doesn't to me. So that's sort of some of my questions right now. I'm just still asking again this month, why the WPCA felt it was necessary to sign a contract retaining an assessor out of town for potentially anywhere from $25,000 to $500,000, depending on the number of challenges to the assessments, when we already have a full-time qualified appraiser assessor on staff. I still don't have an answer to that, and I would like an answer to that one, please. It is alarming to me to hear tonight that you intend or have signed a cost-sharing agreement with the Private Beach Association without knowing the details of the IMAs with New London and Niantic. You would think you would have all the pieces of the puzzle together before you signed anything at all. Thank you.
Very good. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment? Anyone else? Okay, very good.
All participants have been muted.
We will now turn to other business, as it may be. Anyone of the selectmen have other business to bring up?
I got a few items. Or do you have many? Or?
Go right ahead. I have a few. Go ahead.
Let's see. I just got some calls today by one resident in town who wants to see about possibly starting a non-profit community garden, vegetable garden. And they looked at some sites and stuff, and they thought possibly behind the refreshment stand up at Town Woods by the senior center. I guess there's
in the vernal pool.
I haven't looked at it. I just heard about it tonight. I have no idea. I guess that looks like a field. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a vernal pool, but they need about, or would like, about 100 by 200 square, and if they can find a piece of land in town where they can do this, they're going to start a non-profit, and it's going to go towards all the vegetables towards the local soup kitchens, and maybe even the senior center. So if it's up there, so I said I'd bring it up. So maybe we can think about that at some point in time, or a possibility. I mean, obviously it wouldn't happen this year because the growing season's half over, but for next year. They have a group of volunteers. I guess there's one over in Saybrook and there's one in Clinton and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I think I spoke to the same person probably a couple weeks ago and referred him also to our assessor to see if there were what other properties might be appropriate besides that one that you mentioned too. So I don't know if that happened, but certainly seems like a very wonderful idea, and to have it support the local soup kitchens like the ones in Old Saybrook, is really commendable.
Would they need a water source or what?
I asked about that, and he's not sure. I don't think the wells are that great up there, if I remember correctly, to take the field well water. But there is a stream. They can put a hose in there for the amount of time that they do it. But we'd have to look at it first, or come to an agreement. But I'm just throwing that idea there for now, something to think about, maybe for next growing season.
Yeah.
The other ones was I got a call from some Soundview businesses this afternoon, and they would like to know if we can open up more of the private lots because business could use it down there. So I don't know how we're doing, parking. Mary Jo, you probably know more than me, being on the Soundview committee and everything down there. The last time I spoke with our police staff, they said everything seems to be pretty under control. It's nothing, knock on wood, nothing's been too wild, but I guess the businesses would like more business. Which is understandable.
Yeah, well, in talking with the trooper, I think there's a divergence of opinion as to how full the beaches are. And certain business operators think there are a lot of capacity on the beaches, and I think the police are less convinced of that. We limited the parking simply because and our calculation wasn't that scientific. And I think Miami Beach itself feels that 635 number is a little rich, to keep the distancing and so forth, but who knows? So I think it would be hard to just say, okay, open it up. Now, some of the lots, I won't say a majority of them, but some have been going above, they've been parking 100% or more, and they've been talked to.
Did we have any more problems with the church renting out?
I haven't seen it when I've gone down there in the weekends, although I haven't heard anything from the state trooper, but they seem to have been talked to, and it seems to have been, and this happened before, so it seems like Once they're talked to, they remember.
Yeah, I think there were 2 citations for illegal parking. One was a business, one was an individual, and we may even hear an appeal from the individual. So I'm meeting Friday with the trooper and the head ranger about parking tickets and so forth. We've issued a lot of tickets. Can get an update on that. But I think in talking with the trooper, why he's of the opinion that we're at a proper level for parking, and the businesses would, their interest is to improve their business, and they're not concerned as much with public safety and all that sort of thing. So I'm not optimistic in the response from the police, because that would be kind of our main advisor, but we'll look at it. And I haven't heard in this last weekend, because I'd asked that the rangers actually do car counts in the lots, the permitted lots, so we have a record of how many they're parking, as opposed to just guessing. So, because I think the idea would be if people have been parking at 50% consistently, then at the end of the season I would endorse returning half of the fee that they paid, the 100% fee, as opposed to keeping the whole thing. If somebody was a renegade and was often parking more than they're supposed to, then that probably wouldn't be the case. But in listening to the trooper, I think most of the lots have been functioning properly, but we can get more detail from these car counts, if you will. And then, of course, there are the people who we know people park on streets and elsewhere, so we don't know how many people come to Sound View. It's not just the cars in the private lots and in the street and in the town lot. They park in the state park, they park all over the place. So the number of people coming there is greater than the parking available in Sound View. So, but we'll get an answer.
Okay. And I think I'm all set. I think you're going to cover one of them. The other one I was going to ask you about, so I'll let you do it.
Okay. I was going to try and talk with you earlier this morning, but I got sidelined. I sent the Selectmen a grant opportunity for that group out of Massachusetts that would run this. It's just for Connecticut's with respect to the Beaver Deceiver program. And we have a resident who's still experiencing some concerns, some problems. And the grant would require the town and/or resident to apply. It's all online. It looks pretty straightforward. And it appears to me that the share, if you will, is for the assessment by the company that comes in and looks at the situation. But it's a grant, and it's first come, first serve, and it's just for Connecticut. So it seems to me that this might be a good time for us to try it. And I got the information from somebody on the Open Space Commission, so they're aware of it too.
Now, is it a joint application between the town and the landowner?
You know what? I don't think it has to be. It was, if I read it, it wouldn't have to be. But if it is coming from a resident, then that resident would fill it out. But in our case, we're looking at it more from the town's perspective. And I would think we'd want to help
And the
out
land
this
trust,
particular.
isn't it also the land trust?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the land trust was the place where the dam was located. So they're an independent 501c3. So
They could apply to.
yeah.
I think so.
So can we jointly apply with them?
That's what I was wondering, if we could do a joint application for them. Then we could,
The thing, I know, in talking with the people there has to be a certain depth of the water for this thing to work. And I think the problem with the dam in question that we dealt with last year is that the water is pretty shallow on either, on the, one of the sides perhaps. I'm not sure it's deep. So we could find out from, if they were interested, we could find out, because if the place where the dam is, if the landowner is not interested, then we're kind of stuck, right? Because we can't put one in on private property.
Well, right now, we can at least just apply for the grant.
Yeah.
And see, and then they're gonna come down and assess the site, and if it can happen, it'll happen. If it doesn't,
right.
you know.
I agree with Chris. I think that's the way to look at it. Now, I listened to this webinar, and I'm assuming it's the same one. They're having it tomorrow. I listened to it in January or February, and they showed various examples of how this group was able to put in a beaver deceiver in different conditions, including shallow water. I mean, it's pretty much all gravity system anyway. But they had different scenarios. They're really expert at this. But it seems like since this is a grant just for Connecticut, it would be worth.
Well, who's the funding source?
John T. and Jane A. Wiederhold Foundation.
The foundation.
Well, I think it'd be worthwhile to look into, because
Yeah.
this poor resident's been dealing with this for a few years now.
And I did look at the grant real quickly. It didn't look like it didn't look like it was.
And would it pay for the analysis as well as the actual
That's
deceiver?
the part. Yeah, that's the part I'm not sure. It looked to me that it's more of a financial assist. So it appeared to me that the town would be on the hook, if you will, for the actual assessment, and then the company would be
The
put in the
foundation?
interception. Yeah, they put in the intercept or the beaver deceiver, so their costs would be covered through the foundation, but it would require a phone call to verify that. But that was my quick take on it.
Well, there may be other places beside the one we know about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well,
But you probably have to have a spot to tell them this is what we want to talk about.
let's
Right.
direct them in that area first, and
Yeah.
like they say, we start the ball rolling.
Now, certainly there are dams on open space property, but when I was talking to some of the representatives of open space, they were not inclined to have a beaver deceiver because they think that the activity of the beavers is wholesome. It's not affecting neighbors and all that sort of thing. So they seem to say, we don't want to mess with the beavers. We want them to make the dams, and if it changes the landscape, that's what's happened over centuries. And
Well, the property that this one we're talking about is the land trust.
I know.
So let's go forward with this. Right
I'm
now.
just thinking that if for some reason the land trust says if they don't want to do it, I don't know what
Then we can't do it, but let's try to do it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of more than one possibility. Are you restricted to one application?
You know, I don't know.
Location.
I don't know.
Well,
But they've
we'll make
used
some
it in
calls.
Saybrook, the current project in Sharon and Bolton. So, Sharon.
Saybrook had a lot of problems.
And they got
I
funding through this.
briefly spoke to someone over there, a resident, and I'm not 100%, but I know they had some big issues over there. I think they actually had a count on the Selectmen's board of how many beaver issues they've had over there. I'm not sure, so. But don't take that at 100%.
Okay, well, we can make some calls and see.
This is just the Worth Ashore issue again. Just to make the selectmen aware that last week I got a note from, it was a Google alert, that this town from New York was advertising that they were supposed to play baseball, 13 and under, in Old Lyme last weekend. So I sent that out to Tim, to Dave, and Don Bumpy, and everybody assured me that it's not going to happen again. But to my point that this organization continues to advertise, and we aren't really. I think we just need to watch this, and we need to. I still suggest we need to put the Park and Rec to address their policies, so that doesn't happen again.
Is this outfit saying they were planning on coming to Old Lyme and they're unhappy about that they cannot come?
No, it's just what I sent you. It was a little newsreel with this 13 and under team.
So what did, I spoke with Don, he told me he spoke with you, and also Dave, and they actually called the guy of the War of the Shore.
Yeah.
Right, and what was their answer?
Yeah, well, just what they told you is, Don told me that the proprietor of the company said that they weren't going to have any games. That was beginning of July, and this was last week.
Why are we still talking about this? If the thing's been canceled and people have been told it's not happening in Old Lyme, end of story. I don't understand.
Because this came out in the paper last week.
Well, if they didn't get the word, that's not the town's problem. If the promoter is still making noise that they can play ball in Old Lyme, that's ridiculous.
How about just the town, on behalf of the Park and Rec Commission, send him a certified letter that he's not supposed to do that?
Well, we don't know the facts. Did the promoter tell them to call the town? I mean, what's the story here?
Don Bugby knows the whole story. I mean, I asked him the same thing today. I happened to see him and asked him about a second thing, and he brought that up, and he said it's been squashed. Supposedly, he said that when he addressed it to the promoter said it was an error, and it's never going to happen again, that they're never going to come into Old Lyme. And I said, is that the end of the story? And he said it was. And he said he spoke to you and told you that, and he told Dave Roberts that. So
he sent an email.
So I guess it is over, and hopefully it won't happen again.
I don't know why we're wasting time talking about this anymore.
Well, this was one other thing that came up, and hopefully that's the end of it. So it's over.
Well, I'm sorry you think it's a waste of time, but there are a lot of upset residents.
Well, I think we're getting upset that this keeps popping its head up. If people are calling thinking they could still come here, they're not getting the word, and that's not our fault. And
if I got the Google alert, the neighbors that were upset before probably got the Google alert. So,
well, I don't know.
I guess if you want me to end this conversation, what I will say is that at the first time I brought it up, you indicated, kind of jokingly, let's get Don Bugby under the lights. The second time I brought it up, all of a sudden, you felt I was blaming Don or blaming the Park and Rec. The third time I brought it up is this. My point is that I do think the system that was in place did not work in this case. I think there were a lot of reasons, both Chris and I heard from Don, of why it failed, but I do believe Park and Rec ought to address it and ought to look at a way, maybe there's a backup situation. Gosh, Don might be sick again. Or out of town, and something like this could happen. And we don't have a system in place to manage that situation. And this will be the last time I bring this up. But every time we talked about it, we ended the conversation by agreement that we would Maybe have someone come from these organizations and talk to us at the Board of Selectmen meeting. It's never made it to the agenda. So I am done talking about this. But if it happens again, it should have been addressed.
It seems to me that the operator did not follow any protocol, and if you had a better policy than what we have, by some reason, it wouldn't have stopped them. If they just simply showed up and started playing ball without the proper authority, how can you, what policy is going to guard against that?
Well, that's why I've suggested that Park and Rec consider other, maybe we do need an ordinance, maybe we need a fine situation. I don't know. Hopefully this will never happen again. In the past, when this has come up with this particular organization, the request to play ball has gone through Park and Rec.
Mm-hmm. And I guess
they were allowed to play. In my youth, when I was a coach with softball, sometimes that organization was allowed. Most recently, they've not. In this particular case, the paperwork was completed, but it wasn't signed by the town representative.
Well, it seems to me that in the past this organization has functioned properly with our facilities and done the right things, right?
As far as I know, in this particular case, though, being that they weren't supposed to play because of COVID-19 restrictions.
Right. So historically, they have acted, I guess, within the policy and done the right thing. And then this year they were renegades and seemed to come no matter what.
They were also told by the high school that they couldn't use the fields, and they still were advertising that they were going to go there too.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what the policy
I'll leave it in
are.
your capable hands because
I guess we can ask if they have a policy for outside rentals, and if they have a policy, it would be like, how did this happen? But if the answer is they showed up without authorization, without warning, then it's really, I don't think any policy would work to stop that. If they're just going to show up and not do the right thing, how do you protect against that? So,
well, it's blatant, and then everything is trespassing. But
well, you can send the police and all that stuff, but that's kind of messy. And particularly if prior years they acted honorably, it's difficult. All right.
At our last meeting, we had representation from the Old Line Congregational Church here, asking us some questions in public comment. I was looking at the information they left us, and their main concerns were to talk about police practice in the town of Old Line. And they had some questions about body cams, policies and procedures around body cams, if we had a review board, and their real interest was also in getting some training. And since they were here, as you all know, the state passed the police accountability law, HB 604. And I think a lot of the questions that were raised are addressed, from what I've read, in this legislation, or are going to be addressed through requirements in the law from the people and the organizations working on that. So I was I know we haven't officially, as a board, gotten back to them on the questions, but I think a lot of their questions have been answered with this legislation.
Yeah.
Probably the main thing is they were recommending the ABLE training that they shared with us. And it looked to me like in the legislation, the proposed legislation, it will be through the police.
Yeah, they have some different things that they want to work on, and I think between the state police, they're the ones that we rely on, and I would think that after the dust settles, we'll understand from the state police what the game plan's likely to be for training, and even including our rangers. We can inform the church what's going to happen. I mean, they can make suggestions, but they're not, I don't think we have to, go with the ABLE. We'll talk to the state police and see what they think, and then you can take that and we'll give that to the barracks, and they can look that over and see what they have to say about it. But
Well, all this stuff goes in effect next July 1st. The way the bill
that's when it kicks in, but there's got to be a lot of preparation
So
before
there's
that.
going to be a lot of preparations, a
Yeah.
lot of money spent, especially if you get by
I
cameras.
mean, body
storage
cams,
there.
they're talking about some grants for that. We don't have body cams.
Right,
Only the resident state trooper.
right.
Yeah.
But our guys don't. So,
Yeah.
and are we even going to have Rangers next year? Probably not.
I hope so.
Well, I don't think so. But anyways, we'll see
Well,
how it comes out.
If we don't have an inexpensive way to help out down there, stand by.
I know. We're going to have to go back to the old way. And that was talking.
The old way is not the old way. You're not going to get some
Right?
school teachers
We're gonna
with
have to
billy
get,
clubs down there.
It will be more, the real deal police officers part-time, not the Rangers. So it
Well,
all depends on how this thing's going to pan out.
I think-
we got to sit and wait and see how it is.
Well, we're going to have to put that on a fast track, because if the budget changes from somebody earning a more modest thing and somebody earning 2 to 3 times greater than that,
Right.
it's going to be a catastrophe. So stand by.
Right.
Well, I kind of think to address our resident state troopers' concerns, and one of the things he asked us is to, just begin having conversations about the Ranger program. I think, do we want it? What training do we think the Rangers need to make the resident state trooper or the police that supervise them feel covered? He did tell me, our trooper told me that he was going to put the Rangers through a KERMA program for bias training that was free and online training, so I thought that made sense.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great that he looked into that.
Yeah.
But, I think as a board, we ought to be maybe getting our ducks in a row, maybe meeting with our resident state trooper as they get more information, and maybe our town attorney, and see what other towns that have this sort of program are doing this too.
It's all new, so,
I know.
And, these young people are not engaging in that much of police activity like a regular policeman would.
No.
If something
They're not
gets
sworn.
prickly, they get on the radio and they get assistance. They're writing parking tickets and checking coolers and doing like going into the football stadium. They're not getting into difficult situations as a rule. And if something gets nasty, then they break off and get help. So I think we don't, as much as we can, we don't want to create a big deal bureaucracy where all of a sudden they're out and we have to hire state troopers and stuff to back back us up, if we can't get part-timers and all. I mean, I think we try to preserve the concept we have because it's worked well for a good many years. I don't think there's been one incident that I've heard of where the Rangers have really gotten into a difficult situation that put them at risk or the public at risk. And, they're not doing stuff that would cause that kind of reaction, I don't think. So I think we have to work hard to try to keep it because it's the sort of work that, some of these young people go on to criminal justice colleges and so forth, and it's a great thing for them and it's great for us. So
Well,
if the state police and the other authorities say this deal is no more, we'll have to accept that. But I think we have to try to work to retain it myself.
Well, we're going to find out a lot more probably in the next few months because this is, obviously we're going to have to address it before the budget season. And if we have to hire or whatever, we're going to have to, that's going to be months away. But, it's either way, this could be, more likely it's going to be, for a monetary vote, it's going to be costly either way.
Well, we don't even know what the insurance consequence could be. If the towns have to start paying insurance, that's going to be a cost.
Right.
If the state of Connecticut's backing away from that, why?
So maybe in about, a month, we'd have more, more information is going to come out.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt can come here and Dominic or someone from
somebody from the troop.
Someone say, what are we going to have to do? How are we going to budget? What are we going to need?
Wow.
What can we do? What can't we do?
Yeah. And I think perception is important. The Rangers provide a perception of it as a family-friendly place, that it's a person-friendly day at the beach place, as opposed to somebody that looks like a resident state trooper armed down there. It gives a different perception. From listening to the Soundview Commission meetings the last 2 times, for the most part, people were very pleased with the Rangers. Doug Whalen has sung their praises a couple times. There are a few people that say, hey, they need to be walking around more. But boy, since I've been down there all these years, I think this latest group has been great. I was impressed right from the start that Matt did train, and I did talk and say, you actually did do training with them. I witnessed you training them on what you wanted them to do. And I was very impressed with that. So how that's documented for whatever we need to do is important also. But I would say overall, the Rangers this year have been getting, thumbs up.
I think so.
So the one thing I read in the legislation is dash cams on RTVs or ATVs. So we may need to throw that into the mix because, yep. And indicated also the animal control van. What's unclear to me is whether that means maybe in some towns a police officer uses the animal control van. I don't know. So I have a couple of question marks on that too. There may be vehicles that we're not used to thinking about requiring this.
Yeah. Well, I know the police want to stay as far away from animal activity as possible. Particularly if they have to put a dog in their car. Yeah.
Well, we just bought our new car, didn't we? So.
No, but if after hours they get a call and they say, you got to put this dog in your car, and of course the troop would have a built-in excuse.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So just one last thing. So it kind of goes along with, I guess I've been thinking about this for a few weeks, and since we had our Black Lives Matter march in town, that was very well attended, and I know, Tim, you were there. I was looking into what we could do as a town to acknowledge the fact that we know there are areas where people are not treated equitably, and how we could support the overall initiatives and the goal of our town to be, non-racist, welcoming, and how we can then, as a town going forward, when we're looking at different aspects of development in our town, how we can have an umbrella in which this is addressed. I have a friend who is from Windsor, and they were the first town that passed a resolution basically indicating that the town states that racism is a public health crisis that affects all our towns in all of Connecticut, and that we would work to progress an equity and justice-oriented organization by continuing to identify specific activities to enhance diversity and to ensure anti-racism principles across our leadership, staffing, and contracting. And finally, promote equity through all policies approved by the Board of Selectmen and enhance educational efforts aimed at understanding, addressing, and dismantling racism and how it affects the delivery of human and social services, economic development, and public safety. So this resolution, I felt, is a good statement for the board, a good guide for any efforts going forward, and it shows our understanding of what Old Lyme is about and what it can be, without putting any formal constructs on anything at this point. So I'm going to ask you guys if you'll take a look at this, and maybe we can talk about it at our next meeting. About, about a dozen towns have passed
Was this? Is this from some other source?
From Windsor.
Windsor.
Windsor is the first town that passed it, but it's Glastonbury was considering it. New Britain passed it. Hartford, New Haven. It's been shared with our shoreline towns of Lyme and Old Saybrook. But I think if we like this verbiage and like the intent, and there isn't anything that we feel would need to be addressed, we would be the first shoreline town that I'm aware of, east of New Haven, that has made such a resolution, and I think it would be a really good starting point, and it kind of dovetails, although this wasn't my intent because this legislation wasn't on my radar when I was thinking about this. I think it does show an intent to show awareness of the situation, and that we will search out efforts to work on making Old Lyme certainly anti-racist, but find a commitment to regional efforts to combat racism when we see it. I know we have our housing exploratory committee. I see this, all of this kind of fits under this umbrella, and it just shows that we're taking the pulse of the time. We're not ignoring what we're seeing across the nation, and addressing it, talking about it, discussing it, and acknowledging that it is a crisis in our nation. And if we didn't know it before COVID-19, we certainly do now.
All right, we'll look it over.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, well, if there's nothing more, I think we come to that time to have a motion for adjournment. I think my phone ran out of juice. So.
9:43. So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Does that turn off easily?